Alright, so we're gonna just move on to some of my favorite quotes on this book, The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And yeah, this is a very good book, a convicting book, and it helps you to realize how important those small choices make a big impact over time. So, the first one we're going to go into, quote number 1. Let's see if we can get this up. Number 1, success. So there you have it. Quote number 1. Success isn't doing 5,000 things really well. Success is doing half a dozen things really well 5,000 times. Now, there's only so much a person can do. And sometimes I know I'm like this. You know, you wish that you could do 1,000 things, 5,000 things, but it's not, as the saying goes, it's not how long, it's how well. So it's not how many, it's how well in this case. And you know, you have to accept there's only so much you can do. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might, for there is no work or device or knowledge or wisdom in the grave where you are going. So just have to find a way to accept your limits. Pick a few things or half a dozen things, as Darren Hardy says, and do those things really well. I remember there was a concept that I was taught that for you to be an expert in anything, you have to do it 10,000 times or something like that. So again, it's kind of like the same concept, you know, doing half a dozen things 5,000 times really well. You know, it's very difficult to do something really well when you've got so many of those things to do. And I think this really was a great quote from Darren Hardy in this book. So find a way to accept your limits and set yourself free from any guilt, and just do what you can. But whatever it is that you can do, do it really well. Alright, let's move on. Sorry, the sensitivity on this mouse is crazy. Alright, let's move on to the second quote. Quote number 2. You make your choices, and your choices make you. Quote number 2. You make your choices, and your choices make you. This is a crazy, vicious cycle. You know, we all have dreams and aspirations to be a certain person or achieve certain goals, whether it be a health and fitness goal, or it might be a career goal, it might even be relationship goals, you know. But as the quote says, your choices, you make your choices rather, and your choices make you. And in other words, the choices that you make will give you the results, regardless of whether you want those results or not. But to begin with, it's you that made those choices. So if you've got results that you don't like, you have to kind of look yourself in the mirror and, just think about the decisions that you have made, the choices that you have made that's brought you to this point, up to this point today. If you're not happy with the person you're trying to make changes to the choices that you have made, and from now on make different choices, better choices. But you have to also understand that patience is also the key in this regard, because it might take months, maybe even years, or even decades to reverse some of the bad decisions that you have been consistently making in the past. Let's move on to number 3. The third quote is, what you appreciate appreciates. I can spell it properly. Appreciates. Okay, yeah, so quote number 3. What you appreciate appreciates. Having the right disposition towards what you have in life, and it's kind of similar to point 1, or to the quote number 1. Take life seriously, but at the same time enjoy it. Have an appreciation for what you have, be grateful for what you have, and treat it with the respect that it deserves. And I think if you have the right attitude towards certain things in your life, you would appreciate it more, you would treat it more better, and your life will be more sweet in that regard. So what you appreciate appreciates. Alright, let's move on to the next one. Number 4, and that is successful people are willing to do what unsuccessful people are not. Quote number 4. Successful people are willing to do what unsuccessful people are not willing to do. Another quote from Darren Hardy from this book, The Compound Effect. A routine of, say, a professional footballer, they obviously get criticized a lot because of the money that they earn and, the lavish lifestyle that they have. But, day in, day out, week in, week out, they are making sacrifices that the average man just wouldn't do. And a lot of these football players probably played from the age of 10, making sacrifices when they wanted to go out with their friends, etc. In order to make it, they would have been making sacrifices, not eating certain kinds of foods, making sure they're getting enough sleep, etc. Making sure that they're doing their practices and whatever it is, disciplining themselves. And that's the difference. If you want to be a successful person, you need to do what successful people do. Whatever sector you find yourself in, whatever arena you find yourself in, find out what successful people are doing in that arena and start doing it. It's going to cost you something. It's going to take sacrifice. It might be late nights. It might be early mornings. It might be normal nights out. It might be changing your diet. It might be spending less time with friends. Whatever the case may be, it means sacrifice. The flow of a river always takes the least path of resistance. Don't move like a river. It's very simple. It's easy doing what everyone else is doing, and most of the time people that are not successful are doing what everyone else is doing, taking the least path of resistance, but the reward with that is also very low. And oftentimes the thing that you are scared of doing, or the thing that you are avoiding to do, is the very thing that you need to do. Alright, so let's move on to the fifth and final quote from this great book, The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, and that is, never ask advice from someone you wouldn't trade places with. Another profound quote from this book: never ask advice from someone you wouldn't trade places with. It just simply makes no sense. You know, in other words, the person you are taking advice from needs to be some sort of inspiration in that particular area. So they should have either been at the very place that you are trying to get to, or at the very least they are making conscious decisions and efforts in order to get to the place that you wish to get to. How can someone advise you correctly if they have not themselves successfully done it, or at the very least are on that journey or on that route in order to achieve that particular thing, whatever it is that you're wanting to achieve? And you know, again, it has to be in that specific area. You might have a wise friend, a good friend who is very knowledgeable in health and fitness, but at the same time that particular friend might be useless with finances. I'm not going to go to that friend to get advice about finances and how to budget and how to manage my money, but I'll go to that friend, you know, in terms of learning how to look after my body and get my body in the best possible shape as possible. It's that simple. Only ask advice from someone you would trade places with, or as the quote says, never ask advice from someone you wouldn't trade places with. And that's it, the 5 quotes from this great book, The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy.